Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Amber. So today, since it is halfway through the year, we are going to be going through the 23 books that I have read so far. The beginning ones, I am going to go a little bit more in depth on the review, but there are a couple books that I've done like reading vlogs and that, so I'm not going to go too far in depth with those ones. But starting off, the first book that I read this year was A Kingdom of Flesh and Fire by Jennifer L. Armentrout. I gave this one a 5-star. I want to say the first one I gave a 5-star too, but I think that one was more of like a 4-star. But I did really enjoy this one.
If you asked me, I honestly couldn't tell you a lot about the book.
I just remember really enjoying it when I read it, and I gave it 5 stars. So this is the second one in the From Blood and Ash series. I'm not going to really give a synopsis on this because I don't want to ruin it since it is the second book in a series. I don't want to give any spoilers to it. 5 stars though. Did enjoy that one. The other ones in the series, not as much. But anyway, moving on. The next book that I read this year was How the King of Elfhame Learned to Hate Stories by Holly Black. This is like a little, it's like a novella, but it's not. It's like a short story of Cardan from the Cruel Prince series. It's like him as a little boy. So it's like his background pretty much on why he is the way he is. But I honestly really enjoyed this. So I read this probably 6 months after I read the Cruel Prince series. I wanted to read this before I read The Stolen Heir before it came out. And I loved this. It's not long at all, so you get through it really quickly. And the inside of it, like the story itself, there's a lot of illustrations in this book, and I think that they were so cute. I loved the story. There were a lot of things in here that you kind of have a that's why he said that in the main series moment, and it just makes, you don't have to read it. It doesn't really add anything to it, but it definitely gives you a really good understanding of why Cardan is the way he is, and it makes you like him more. Well, at least it made me like him more as a character. Enjoyed it. I gave this 5 stars. The next one is The Stolen Heir by Holly Black. I really enjoyed this book. I gave it 4 stars for what it is. This one is still in the world of the Cruel Prince, but you're focusing on Oak. So Jude's younger, what would you call him? Adopted brother, I guess? Half-brother? Adopted brother. But it focuses on Oak and then Surin. You meet her during the Cruel Prince series. I don't remember which book she's introduced in. I don't remember if it's The Wicked King or The Queen of Nothing. But it focuses on those two. I did really like the story for what it was, but having it be the spin-off, I didn't really care for Oak as a character. Surin is okay. I liked her. It just wasn't the same as reading the Cruel Prince series. I had really mixed feelings on this. I still gave it 4 stars because I did really enjoy reading it, and I did like being back in that world. And it did make me want to go back and read the Cruel Prince series, but 4 stars. The next book that I read was The Royal Obsession by Milana Jax, I think is how you say her name. I hated this book. I really struggled to finish it. I need to get more in the habit of just DNFing books when I don't like them, but it's like, when I get so far into a story, I feel like I've put so much time into it that I have to see it through. And I need to stop thinking like that because I do regret finishing this. I gave this 2 stars, and honestly, that was too much. It was a 1 star for me. I don't remember the character's name, and I honestly don't care to go back to find him. But you have a young girl who's a farmer. She goes out into the woods and finds this mysterious guy. So he tells her that he's the commanding general or whatever for the Seelie King's army, but he's actually the Summer King. That's all in the synopsis, by the way, not a spoiler. It's just, the writing isn't very good. The chemistry between the characters it felt forced and weird. There's the, like, mother of the Summer King is just a horrendous character. I wish she would have been in there. She's barely even in there to begin with, but I wish she wouldn't have even been in there at all. But he invites her to, like, this thing that they hold each, I think it's in the summer. They hold it every year, and it's like a bunch of people are invited from all over the kingdom to this big party, and then the Summer King tries to find his match on who he's going to end up marrying and having kids, and every year he doesn't, but then he invites her. The mom hates her because she is a fae with barely any magic. She thinks she's not worthy of her son. 1 star. Yeah, I don't know what else I can say about that. Next up, we have The Crown of Gilded Bones by Jennifer L. Armentrout. I gave this one 4 stars. I really think it was more of like a 3.53 star for me. I got extremely bored halfway through this. I don't even know if it was halfway through this. I got extremely bored and I put this down for a while and then I picked it back up. This is the 3rd book in the From Blood and Ash series. The more that I read these, I liked the first one. I loved the second one. Didn't really care for this one. I'm in middle of the 4th one. Not really caring for it. I don't plan on picking up Castile's point of view. Again, just way too much dragged out. I love Castile. He's what keeps me reading this series. But everything else, I don't really care for. 3.5 stars. This will be an every year thing. This was the 3rd, 4th? How many times have I read this? I think this was my 4th reread of A Court of Thorns and Roses. This still got 4 stars. I don't mind the first one. It's good, but yeah. So you're following, for those of you who don't know, you're following Feyre, who is human in the human world. She ends up killing a wolf. Tamlin, who is a fae, comes over and demands that she comes and lives with him as like her payment for killing this wolf. There's like this blight that they call it over the fairy realm. She has to try and find a way to stop this to help Tamlin and the whole entire fairy world. It's good. Enjoyed it. 4 stars again. This is the series that got me back into reading, so it's going to be one of those things where I probably read it every year. It doesn't get old to me. I know that this is a super, like, mixed, you either love it or hate it. I don't really hear too many people who are, like, in between. I'm one of the people who love it. Next up, I read A Court of Mist and Fury, which is the 2nd book in A Court of Thorns and Roses. This one, you're still following Feyre. Again, I'm not going to go too far into this because I don't want to spoil it. This is the best book in the series, in my opinion, and I think most people agree on that. Like, the number 1 book boyfriend is in this book. I mean, need I say more? 5 stars. Through and through. It'll always be 5 stars for me. I love this book. Next up, we got A Court of Wings and Ruin by Sarah J. Maas, which is the 3rd book in A Court of Thorns and Roses series. This one is where a lot of the action happens. Romance is definitely a subplot in this. You're mainly focusing on all the action and getting things wrapped up on what's happening. Still focusing on Feyre in this one. 5 stars again. This is a close tie for me. This one and A Court of Mist and Fury are honestly a close tie for my favorites in the series. I do really love this one. 5 stars again. Next, I read A Court of Frost and Starlight, which is the novella in A Court of Thorns and Roses. I know a lot of people don't really care for this novella. I personally really enjoy it. I liked kind of having the relaxing, cozy feeling of reading this versus action, plot, information dump onto you. This one's like just a relaxing, you're getting just kind of just small little snippets of their everyday life after things have calmed down. You don't have to read this, but I still do suggest reading it because there are things that happen in this that do lead up into the next books. I did enjoy this one. This one gets 4 stars. Next, I finished up Kingdom of Ash by Sarah J. Maas. This is the final book in Throne of Glass. I've talked about this book in previous videos, so I won't drone on too long about this. It's a thick one. It's 980 pages of thin paper with small letters. It's a lot. I did get bored halfway through because I burnt myself out by trying to read everything at once. I overstayed my welcome in this world for a time period. So I did take a break, and I'm sad that I took a break because I honestly stopped reading right before everything in this book happens. If I would have just stuck it out, I would have been hooked again and binged the rest of this. But I took a break. And that did kind of take away from it a little bit. I still gave it 5 stars nonetheless. There's a lot that happens in this book. And it's the final book in the series. So there's 7 main books, and then like The Assassin's Blade is a couple novellas put together. I really liked it. Super good book. The series overall is amazing. It is a little bit long. Next, I read on my Kindle Brutal Prince by Sophie Lark. I gave that book 4 stars. And that's the first book in the Brutal Birthright series. It's a mafia romance book. So you're following this in Chicago, and you have the Irish mafia family, and then you have Ada, which it doesn't say in the synopsis, and I honestly can't remember. They're like the Polish mafia family. It's like Irish and Polish. I could be wrong on hers. I'm sorry if I am. It doesn't say in here. But anyway, so they're like warring mafia families in Chicago, and Callum is the oldest son to the Irish mafia. Ada and her brothers go to a party at their house one night. She accidentally sets fire inside their house. The dads end up arranging a marriage pact between them. So it's forced marriage. And when I tell you that I sat down and I read this book all in one sitting, it's so good. I need to get back into this world. There are more books to this series, but the series, they're like standalone. So they intertwine in the same world, but each one is set on a different couple in these families. This one was so good. Oh, and there are also like little illustrations throughout, which really added to the story. If you are looking for a good mafia romance, highly recommend this one. This got 4 stars. It was really good. I think, actually, I gave it 4.5 stars. It wasn't just 4. Sorry, I'm looking at my Goodreads, so it was a 4.5 stars. Super good. Highly recommend. The next book that I read was The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. I gave this 4 stars, but the more I think on it, I think it's more like a 3.5. I liked the story, and I like Madeline Miller's writing. I just honestly didn't like Achilles as a character. I liked Patroclus. I just didn't really care for Achilles. I didn't really like their chemistry. Yeah, I don't really know what else I can say about this. I didn't really care for it that much. I was on like this hype after I finished it. It definitely hits you in the feels. I definitely cried during this book. Next, I read Twined by Renee Rocco. It's a dark Rapunzel retelling. Spicy. So this is the second part. The first one is called Twisted. And I loved the first one. I gave it 5 stars, and I read that all in one sitting. I thought it was so good. This is on Kindle Unlimited also. This one I gave 4 stars. I didn't really care for it as much. This is a Why Choose dark romance with Rapunzel and 3 morally gray anti-heroes. I really enjoyed it. I just thought that the second one was just less enjoyable than the first one. Still really good. The next one that I read was The Serpent and the Wings of Night. This is the first book in the Crowns of Nyaxia by Carissa Broadbent. This is also on Kindle Unlimited. I loved this first book. 5 stars. I couldn't get enough of this. So you're following Aurea, who is like the adopted human daughter of the King of Night, and she's choosing to go, it's called the Kajari. It's kind of like in the Hunger Games where it's this big fight where only one person can win, but you have a lot of competitors. And this is vampires. She's the only human that's going into the Kajari, and if you win, you get to ask the goddess of death, who created all the vampires, for basically a wish. Then you have Rain, who's another competitor, and they end up teaming up to help each other, but of course along the way they start becoming attracted to each other. So you get enemies to lovers. It's like if you put vampires in the Hunger Games. It's very good. Then I read Six Scorched Roses, which is the novella in that same series by Carissa Broadbent. I loved this novella. 5 stars. Again, I read it all in one sitting. So this one, you're following Lilith, where her town is dying, and she goes to a vampire that lives on the outskirts of this town. His name is Vale, and she brings him these roses in exchange for a vial of his blood, so that she can do research to try and save this town because her sister is on the brink of dying along with everybody else. They can't grow anything. This rose bush is like the only thing that she can get to grow in this town. And these characters, you do end up meeting later on in the series. They're not like main characters or anything like that, but it does give them a little bit of a backstory that I thought was personally very enjoyable. I definitely recommend reading that if you are going to be reading the Crowns of Nyaxia series. I think it's a very well written novella. I really fell in love with these characters very quickly. Next up, I read A Kingdom of Venom and Vows by Holly Renee. This is the third book in the Stars and Shadows series. I gave this 4 stars. You're following Adara. I'm not going to go too in depth in this because I have talked about this book in previous ones too, but basically the first one is she's the Star Blessed. It is thought that the Star Blessed is going to be who saves the kingdom. Her mom ends up giving her away to the Fae Prince, Gavril, and she ends up being attracted to his half brother, Everin. So you have like the forbidden love trope, enemies to lovers, morally gray characters. I believe it is a fated mates trope too. There's a lot of tropes in this. There are quite a bit of trigger warnings in this series, so you do want to check those out before you get into it. But I think this is a really good series. All the books are pretty short. I really enjoyed them. I recommend this. 4 stars for this one, but I believe the first one got 5 stars from me. Next we have Crescent City, House of Earth and Blood by Sarah J. Maas. I finally got to this book. It took me a little bit to read. I had a hard time getting into this book. So you have Bryce Quinlan, who is known as a party girl. Her closest friends all end up getting murdered. They think that they have the person who did it behind bars, but then all of a sudden the crimes start up again, and she ends up having to get paired with Hunt to try and solve this mystery on who the murderer is. Hunt is a fallen angel, and they were like the rebellion, and so he is forced by the government to work for them to do whatever it is that they want until they think that he has repaid the debt for his crimes that he has done. So they end up, you get enemies to lovers in this one with Hunt and Bryce. I absolutely adored their characters. I loved them as a couple. It was so good. I need to get to the second one. I have not read the second one yet, and I need to get into it. I gave this book 4.5 stars. Yeah, 4.5 stars. I want to get back into it. It's just, they're so thick. I can't bring myself to do it yet, but soon enough I will get into the second one of this. Next I read The Ashes and the Star-Cursed King, which is the second book in the Crowns of Nyaxia series. I liked this book. I did a whole reading vlog on this, so I'm not going to go too far in depth in this review, but I gave this book a 4 star. This book put me in a slump, but not towards the end of it. It was like the 30 to 60% mark. I was in a huge slump. I really struggled to get back into this. It felt like things were getting repeated a lot, and there was filler in there that didn't really add much to the story. It just kind of felt like it was being forced to be a longer book than it needed to be. I definitely think it could have been shortened, but that is my own opinion. Yeah, I'm not going to go too far into that, but 4 stars for that one. Next up, we have Belladonna by Adeline Grace. This one I also gave 4 stars to. I really enjoyed this one. So you're following Signa in this one, and she cannot die. She's always been followed by death throughout her whole entire life. She gets passed around from family member to family member who keep meeting an untimely death. And so she's finally getting to the last family member that she has. The mother has passed away before she even gets there from an illness. The daughter also has this illness. And so she's trying to find out the mystery behind the mom's death before the daughter dies. And in order to do that, she has to team up with Death himself in order to try and figure this out. I thought that the mystery was really good in this book. I enjoyed it. I loved the kind of darker gothic vibes that this book gives off. I really enjoyed it. I loved Death as a character, and I loved Signa as a character. The only thing that made me give this 4 stars is just that the flow of the book was a little off for me. Like the mystery into romance, back into mystery, finishing on romance. It was just kind of weird. It didn't really flow naturally to me. It was still really good, and I am looking forward to continuing the series when it comes out. Next, I read Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarrow. I know that this book is kind of becoming a little bit of a mixed, it still has a ton of good reviews, but I am seeing more and more people say that they think that this book is a little too overhyped. I gave this 5 stars. I had the worst book hangover after finishing this. I thought it was phenomenal. I cannot wait until November 7th for the next book to come out. It's going to kill me. So in this one, you're following Violet, who is at this war college where obviously you have dragons and there's different quadrants. She wants to go into the scribe quadrant, but her mom is the general and she forces her to enter the writer's quadrant. She says that none of her children are going to pretty much disgrace her by going into any other quadrant. She has 2 older siblings who have gone through the writer's quadrant. In order to become a writer, you have to go through a year's worth of training. It's either you graduate or you die. There's no like failing out or anything like that. And I can see where people are coming from with the like she's just a super small, weak, fragile girl. It is unrealistic for what happens. Then you have Xaden, who is the child of one of the main guys who led the rebellion. So they get these rebellion marks on them just to let everybody know this is the child of a rebellion member. Instead of killing them, they allow them to enter into the war college to become riders, and he is one of the wing leaders in this. Just for Violet being her mom's daughter, he wants to kill her right away, as do most other people in this. So I'm sure most of you have seen that Xaden is one of the newest book boyfriends added into the list. I really enjoyed them as characters. I thought that their banter was amazing. I loved it. I really don't have anything negative to say about this book. I loved everything about it. I thought it was very well written. It does end on a huge cliffhanger. Overall, 5 stars for this book. I thought it was phenomenal. Definitely recommend picking up this book. These next 2 books I'm not going to go super in depth either because I have done a review on that one. Meet Me at the Lake by Carly Fortune. I was very disappointed in this book. I ended up giving it either a 3 or 3.5 stars. I don't remember it. I think it was 3. You follow Fern. Her mom passes away and she leaves her the lake resort and she's not really sure if she wants to inherit this or not. Her ex-boyfriend is like the manager there, so he's trying to help run it. It goes from past tense to like the present time, and so the chapters kind of bounce back and forth. She had met Will 10 years previous to this while she was living in the city. They spent 24 hours together, really hit it off. They agreed to meet a year later, and one of them doesn't end up showing up, so there are definitely some like hurt feelings between them. He ends up coming back here to help her like fix up the resort and help her decide what she's gonna do. I just found the whole instant attraction thing was just not it. It just wasn't very realistic. I really didn't enjoy much about this book. We'll just leave it at that. Next, I read Beach Read by Emily Henry. I thoroughly enjoyed this book, 5 stars. You follow Augustus, who is a fiction writer, and you follow January, who is a romance writer. They end up being in neighboring beach houses for the summer. Both of them have a writer's block. They agree to swap genres for writing for the summer, so to help each other get out of their slumps. And I really enjoyed this book. 5 stars. Loved it. Highly recommend. Next, I read Birthday Girl by Penelope Douglas. This is an age gap romance. She ends up falling for her boyfriend's dad. I'm going to leave it at that. It was really good. I gave it 4 or 4.5 stars. I really enjoyed it. It didn't take me long to read at all. Addictive. Highly recommend. So those are the 23 books that I have read so far this year. I'm almost done with 2 more books currently. I feel like I've had a fairly good reading year so far. There hasn't been very many books that I didn't enjoy. As you guys could see there, I only had a couple that were 3 stars or less. So overall, it's been a very good year so far for reading. I am really looking forward to seeing what I end up finishing for the rest of the year. I am a little behind schedule because I think I wanted to read 60 books by the end of this year. I'm only at 23. I think I'm like 3 books behind schedule on my Goodreads. But I'm hoping to kind of catch back up. But thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know down in the comments any of these books that you've read that you agreed or disagreed with me on the rating, or any other books that are similar to these that you guys really enjoyed reading for recommendations. I would love to hear them. So thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe down below if you enjoyed, and I will see you in the next one.